Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of literature, the show of Oakland, Brexit, traveling around Austin on a bike. But mostly today's conversation is about the lovely, supple, sultry Spirit Gin. We chat today with the owner of Whitechapel, the amazingly world-renowned gin bar in San Francisco, Alex Smith. Alex is very human, he's very kind, he's very observant, he's a writer turned hospitality professional, and he had this vision for a gin bar that came together so amazingly in San Francisco via Whitechapel. So hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Alex Smith.
That wasn't there.
Yeah.
This place is totally different. And he wasn't sure if he liked it or not. So.
Yeah, I think that's kind of good. I think that Austin shouldn't always be that comfortable because it has to evolve and has to kind of grow.
I feel the same way about San Francisco, quite frankly. A lot of people complain a lot about how San Francisco isn't what it used to be.
Sure.
It's not that funky, crazy, quirky, liberal city.
Yeah.
It is becoming obviously more high tech.
Totally.
And building developments happening everywhere.
You know, it's interesting. There's an interesting parallel, I think, to people saying, I want to go back to how it was.
Right.
That's a very dangerous sentiment.
I agree.
You know, like this is, you know, we won't say who, but this is a particular operating platform for this upcoming presidential election.
Absolutely. Let's make San Francisco great again.
Yeah. What does that mean? Remove tech? Does that mean like removing people?
Right.
Put them in, have them go camp somewhere?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's almost like if you were a lizard, a dinosaur, or primate, and you were saying "down with evolution," you know,
right? Like, exactly.
Well, it happens.
It does, and it's for the benefit. It's all about adapting. Right?
Ultimately, that's right. I would say, yeah.
It's but it's interesting. There is, I mean, obviously, San Francisco is a metropolitan, and my mom was raised and born in San Francisco, so we would go back and visit the family every now and again. Nice. And hearing her talk about it in the '60s and stuff, and how the hippie culture was just kind of starting to percolate, and you've got amazing film scene, new wave is coming in,
right?
And it sounded like such an amazing place, and so even now it's funny because she's the opposite. She's like, God, it got so weird, which is weird because it's kind of the opposite. Of people are like, no, bring back the weirdness, but she's saying, no, it's actually it's way too weird for me now. Maybe it's all the nudity for her.
It's too weird now. Huh?
Yeah, and that's strange.
Interesting.
Yeah,
but that's still a similar sentiment in that she likes what it was, right? She has a certain comfort.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With what it was.
The Donna Reed in the kitchen. That's what I call it when you talk about certain people in the States, man. It's like bringing women back. It's a very dangerous, slippery slope of bit. But, so you've been in Austin here for a couple of days. What brought you? Just kind of exploring? Or are you looking to maybe open a spot? Or what can or you cannot say about?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly not looking to open a spot here. Yeah. Vacation was a big motivation. Okay. I wanted to get away from the post-opening of Whitechapel and the stress and all the constant work. I mean, even on my days off, when I get them, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, still.
Communicating with people, solving problems, dealing with issues. And
money, people, time, like all of it, right?
It almost never stops. And then, so I wanted to get away. I wanted to sort of de-stress.
Sure.
But I also wanted to check out Austin and see, not necessarily for opening a place in Austin, but I wanted to check out the patio culture, because of the weather, I guess.
Yeah.
It is such a prominent feature of nightlife or just going out. People enjoying food and drink in a outdoor patio setting.
Totally.
The misters and all that, you know?
Yeah, did you get a chance to check out, I forgot, the name escapes me. There's a spot that's basically entirely outdoors that's on the east side. And it's very meat heavy, but very interesting. And every single person that I've interviewed has freaking worked there. For some reason, I can't remember. I'll follow up and make sure. But there's explicitly a place kind of out by the airport closely, and totally outdoor. It's pure patio stuff. It's so So cool. At any rate, so what your thoughts of Austin? Is it as patio driven as you thought coming in?
Yeah, even more so.
Yeah.
I was told a little bit up front to expect a lot of great beer gardens.
Oh yeah.
And the patio scene. It seems almost every place that has a bar has some kind of outdoor area to enjoy the drinks that they make. So to me, it's definitely a huge part of the local culture here.
Yeah, it's a very healthy place. A lot of people are outside, and as much as we're outside running and swimming and jogging and all of that, or biking, they're drinking. So it's a nice kind of balance.
Yeah.
There's so many damn breweries, but everybody's relatively healthy here in Austin.
Seems like it, yeah.
Same thing. You ever been to Boulder?
I have not been to Boulder,
Same kind of thing, except it's less varied racially. Like here we have there's a lot of different types of people, which is really cool.
Really fun mix here, yeah.
Yeah, totally. But Colorado's a little bit different, but it's the same kind of thing. People party really, really hard, but they work out really, really hard.
Huh.
Just kind of cool.
Yeah, it seems like people are in pretty good shape, not like in the way that people down in LA are.
Right,
where they're artificially tanned and toned
25% plastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So then I kind of, I have to wonder. You're at a gin bar, one of a universally renowned gin bar too. I mean, immediately became with such a focus in that. How did all of this stuff kind of start? Are you from California originally? I know you said you live in Oakland, but is that where you grew up?
From California originally. Didn't grow up in Oakland. No, I moved up to Oakland as a young adult.
Yeah.
And from LA.
Oh, from LA.
Yeah.
So were you born in LA?
No, I was born in Santa Clara.
Okay,
enough.
which is cooler, a little more mellow, right?
For sure. I mean, I like the association of being a true, authentic Northern Californian versus Southern Californian. By the time I left LA, I was in my very early 20s. I was definitely ready to get away from the LA culture.
Dude, it's a strange one.
It's strange.
I'm not a huge fan of it either. But I don't live in California, so I can't complain,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what kinds of things? So Santa Clara, you're born and raised basically in Santa Clara. What kind of...
No, parents moved away from Santa Clara pretty much right after I was born to
really?
Chicago.
Okay. Oh, to Chicago.
Yep. My dad is a dentist, and he went to, what was it, Northwestern? For dental school. And so they moved out there. I grew up 10 years there.
Oh, cool.
And from that
different
point,
weather, man. Was that a big... but you weren't... I guess you didn't get too adapted to the California weather just yet, right?
No, but then at 10 years, we moved to LA. So kind of went from Chicago for my first 10 years, LA for my second 10, 11 years. And then I decided to move up to Northern California because I felt a real sort of the culture that I would visit friends going to Cal. Yeah. And I really vibed with the whole more Northern California.
But Chicago's, what do you feel like? I've always found Chicago's intensely friendly people, just very warm,
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, so that fits the bill. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Downtown, I didn't spend much time as a kid, of course, downtown. It would maybe, I have random memories of my mom taking me to work and, dragging me down the sidewalk and I'm trying to keep up with her. But
it's a big city of big buildings and everything,
lots of people, right?
Yeah. So you said your dad was a dentist. What was your mom doing?
She very much retired now, but both are. But
lucky.
She was an executive secretary.
Oh, cool.
For various different companies. Growing up.
And so, do you have any brothers or sisters?
Half. I was raised as an only child, but I do have two half sisters.
Okay.
One of which I have been very close with most of my life, and the other one I just kind of got reunited with a little bit.
Interesting. Are they younger?
Well, one's 10 years older, one's 10 years younger.
Which one do you get along with?
The younger one is the one that I have a longer relationship with.
Gotcha. That makes some sense. Was that part of the reason that you guys went to LA? Some of or was the family still fully intact at that point?
No, very much not. No, my family didn't last long as a unit. My parents split up when I was young, and ended up going to LA with my mom and stepdad, and so it was a fractured family experience,
which has got to be difficult. I moved around a lot. Now my parents, they got married. Very interesting story, kind of early on for me, but they got married when I was 8, right? So interesting.
Got married when you were 8.
That's right.
Nice.
So there's some things. Interesting story there. Like I said, my mom chasing this fella around, I guess you could say. But we moved right around that time too, when I was changing schools, right? Like when you're starting to kind of get stuff because you're 10, roughly, and it's like, I kind of get, maybe I'm getting myself. Maybe this makes some sense. And then things kind of get uprooted, and you're heading to LA. It's got to be relatively tough, yeah.
Yeah, it was. I didn't have any choice, but
Well,
it was
sure,
there was definitely stresses involved for sure. Yeah.
What kind of what kind of stuff did you kind of like in school? Were you doing music at all, or more academic stuff?
Very much more academic stuff.
Yeah,
academic, a lot of literature, poetry, novels, things like that.
Still to this day, pretty interested in that stuff.
I went through a long phase where I burned out. Ended up going to UCLA as a lit major.
Okay,
and they're on the quarter system, and they would force us to read these long books. The
stale stuff, like Hawthorne and stuff, which people appreciate Hawthorne, which is great, but
I enjoyed the books themselves, but the timeline. I'm not a fast reader.
Yeah,
I like to slowly absorb things and sometimes read things a couple times. I mean, not the entire book, but the sentence a couple times.
Yeah,
exactly. Just kind of like really like let it wash over me,
mm-hmm.
and they really took all the enjoyment out of it, and they said, you have to read this book by next week. I was like, wow,
really? Yeah. Because it is. I mean, you think about how influential. What was it more American lit for you? English lit? European? Was there a specific?
It was kind of bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody that you felt like? Interestingly enough, for myself, when I read Jane Eyre, I was like, oh, I kind of get things a little more now, like on an emotional maturity level. Oddly enough, and that's a weird one to, kind of side with one of the Bronte sisters. But was there anything that you remember kind of reading and you're like, man, this kind of opens things up for me a little bit?
James Joyce, Ulysses. I studied that. I had one class dedicated to that one book.
You have to, right? It's a massive book.
Massive and complex as heck. Yeah. Crazy. Shakespeare, I kind of at UCLA studying, his language clicked and I could read it. I didn't necessarily need the notes to interpret, what he was saying. Of course, there was a lot of political or social references that I didn't get, but
sure.
The language I could actually read through pretty smoothly.
It's melodic the way that he writes. The way people, I love the way the meter of it is just beautiful.
Yeah, clever, powerful, colorful.
Yeah, very colorful.
Yeah.
So you're rushed to read through these books, of which you should just be able to sit in a hammock and enjoy. It's what they were made for, right?
I think that's probably what they were made for. Yeah, exactly. And then they kind of, you deconstruct them and you rush through it. And by the time I actually dropped out of UCLA and to move up to Berkeley at the time, I was so burned out on reading, I literally didn't read for years after that.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, so
I just started to get back into it not too long ago.
Did you just shift to like movies or music or anything? Something a little bit easier to consume?
A lot easier, yeah. Exactly, that's right.
That's my thing, and it's not because I'm lazy. I just love the visual representations of things.
Yeah.
Don't leave it to me.
You can get so much. You can get so much more.
Yeah.
In visual arts and audio arts, so much quicker.
Yeah.
It's like your body and mind are eager to absorb it.
Sure.
But with the words on the page, it's fun to absorb, and you really absorb it deeply. But at least for me anyway, it takes time. It really
you're right, because it's
soaks in slowly.
Totally, it's one dimension, and not to say that in your mind it's not multi-dimension, but literally it's physically it's one dimension. So no real room for colors. Those are all kind of implanted by our own interpretation of the words themselves, which is
we're imagining what we're reading.
Exactly.
So we have to interpret the black and white coloration on the page. And so it involves a lot more effort on our part.
No, it does, and it makes you. And if you have to rush through it, it's not. That kind of defeats the purpose of it. But the other thing I think about that, you music guy as well?
Yeah, I like music. I was much more passionate about music when I was younger.
Yeah.
Now I listen to it a lot, but I don't associate my who I am with the bands I listen to.
I think we're both older now. Where you're like, I just like what I like. I'm not trying to make a statement with my Fugazi shirt anymore.
Absolutely, right.
Which was a huge thing in high school. I was like, dude, that guy's got that shirt.
Yeah.
Never had that shirt. I wish I did. But you think of like any of the large Beatles compositions, let's just say, like A Day in the Life or something, and anything off Sgt. Pepper's. And so you listen to it once. Okay. Okay, you hear it. You get it. It's like, oh, well, I hear the voices. You listen to it again. Stop listening to the voices. You start listening to the horns. You're like, what? Whoa, okay. Stop listening to the horns, listen to the drum. And then that's the great thing about music, much like a book, I suppose, but it is, as you said, it's easier to digest. It's much more quick. But
it's very visceral, right?
Totally.
Whereas reading is not really visceral.
Yeah, absolutely. So you go up and you said you transferred in. Were you pursuing a different field, or did you actually transfer to Berkeley from UCLA?
I didn't transfer to the school. I just moved to the city.
Oh, I see.
I dropped out of school altogether.
Yeah.
Just in hopes, actually, back then, I was even hoping to to open up a little live music venue / bar.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I was in that industry, kind of fell into it casually, not really knowing what I was going to do with my life.
Yeah.
But I liked it, and I liked the idea of opening a venue. Of course, one of the first things I did when I moved up there was to go to the bank and talk to a banker and say, "Hey, I want to take a loan out. I want to open a bar."
That's a wonderful experience, isn't it?
Oh, it was it was a wake up call.
Humbling at the least, right?
I think she was trying not to laugh really hard at me.
How old were you at that time?
Early 20s. I think 22 at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even harder, right? Like you're not even.
I had experience as a barback and bartender at that point. Busboy, barback, and bartender.
Yeah.
And literally for maybe a year's worth of bartending experience. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they essentially laughed at me.
That's how
without
it goes.
Really laughing.
Yeah. It's like, chortling. That's the word, right?
Yes.
Where you just like this brief kind of dude laughed at those fuckers, right? Anyway, we've been through it. I've been through that. Obviously, we're both business owners, and you go through that and you start taking it in stride as you get older.
Oh yeah.
So did you then say, well, all right, well, maybe I can't do this venue thing right now, but I'm going to still do bartending? Was that even a conscious decision?
Yes. Yeah, I did stick with bartending, although the first job I got was busing in Berkeley. Yeah. I needed to pay my bills right away, so I took whatever I got, and then kind of as opportunities arose, I moved into bartending.
What kind of bartending at that point? Because it's probably transactional stuff, right? Not too creative.
College bartending. I was at Blake's on Telegraph, which I don't think exists anymore. And it was nothing sophisticated. I didn't learn anything by doing it. I literally
means to an end, right?
Yeah, paid bills. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, to think that it's come this far. You're just doing it. You're kind of in the moment. Was there something you're saying? Well, all right, when I get out from under this, was there an industry that you thought was going to be your career? Had you really made that decision?
Not really. I think at that point I was still although I had goals of wanting to open up something and do something on my own, I didn't have the means, and I certainly didn't have the experience.
Right.
And so I just fell into enjoying life, as a young
in Berkeley,
mid-20s in Berkeley. Yep.
Good.
I moved out of Berkeley a couple years after that. What was it, 95? Oh, maybe even 1 year after that.
Yeah.
Moved into Oakland and still live in Oakland.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking roughly 20 years ago, say mid-90s.
Yep,
when you moved?
A little over 20, yep.
Oakland has to, at this point, be completely transformed.
Yes, but it's transforming itself very slowly.
Is it?
It's ridiculously mismanaged.
I heard the whole police fiasco.
Oh my God, you heard about that?
That would make an amazing movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that
if it
sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This was a series of coincidences, a series of deaths, a series of just everything. It's like insane. And for those people that I'm not going to pretend like I'm educated on it, but read up on what the hell that scandal is with the Oakland Police Department. The chief stepped down, right? That was the recent thing.
Yeah, and I haven't been following it too closely, to be honest with you. I read a little bit about what was going on, and I literally just I threw my hands up, and I was like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
And I should look into it more, but I've heard 3 police chiefs in 10 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that
massive corruption, suicide? I mean, honestly, this is a massive intrigue novel.
Child
trafficking,
right? And prostitution, and God knows what. I mean,
unbelievable
craziness.
When being someone that could call them, so this actually is a nice way to take it back. So I've been in Austin going on 16 years. Mm-hmm. I don't ever go back and be like, oh, I wish Austin was the way. I like to adapt. I like to evolve. I like to change with the times, so to speak.
Sure.
So you can call yourself now like an old town, old school Oaklandite, if that's even the right way.
Yeah. I've literally lived there for at least 20 years, 21 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What was it about Oakland that really drew you to it? Because it is a very stark contrast from San Fran, really.
Yeah. One of the things I motivated me more, not moving to Oakland, but moving away from Berkeley.
Yeah.
I would get off work and wait for the bus, or what was it? I forget what I was seeing. I was seeing all kinds of kids on Telegraph, like passed out, puking. I think it was just the drug abuse, kind of weird, like street hippies or street punks or whatever.
Street punks, okay, that makes sense.
And it just got so depressing to see that day after day. And here I am, I thought moving to Oakland would kind of solve that problem, get that out of my life. And it didn't really. And then here I am in San Francisco, working in San Francisco now at Whitechapel. And I take BART in 5 days a week, BART back at least. And I'm walking through the TL, through Civic Center, from BART to work. And I'm kind of seeing the same sort of thing all over again 20-some years later. You would think
that would be different, you know?
Yeah, it's frustrating and it's depressing.
Is it Oakland? I mean, from my interpretation of it as a huge outsider right here in Texas, in the nice, safe old Austin, Texas. Is Oakland, did you feel like it was a safe place to be for you when you moved out there 20 years ago?
Well, not Oakland has had a reputation to outsiders for I presume still
this
does
not help this police fiasco.
Right.
We're like, what the fuck do they do in Oakland over there? That's crazy. You know?
It seems that the crime in general is going down in Oakland.
Yeah.
But then you look at what's happening with the corruption on the police department and in the local politics is generally kind of crummy. I mean, it's not run well. There's a lot of corruption. I don't know what they're focusing on, but I think Oakland could be developing in a more progressive, more efficient, faster, and smarter way. But I think everyone's got their hands in everyone's pockets, and they're not really. Their eyes are certainly not on the prize in terms of actually developing
the hands in the pocket. It's how lots of things are. Yeah. They're not really looking too well. I mean, again, it's the same thread narrative, right? That people don't want shit to change, whether they're mad that it has because they don't have the same money they did before, and that's why the UK is breaking out of the EU. I mean,
that's crazy too.
It's insane, right? Yeah. I didn't think that this conversation would have so much similarities that, like, on just a very local level here in Oakland, the sustained corruption is what's preventing progress. And then you think about it in the EU, which I'm not going to pretend to know too much about the UK because I never lived there. Yeah. Have a pro tem Brit though that sits next to me at work, and we can talk politics about that.
Nice.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's the opposite. They're so afraid of change because it's apparently offended them or whatnot. Even though now people are they're facing retribution for those votes. They're actually already feeling guilty about voting. Did you see this?
No.
No. Post-voting poll. They're like, oh, wait, what did we do? What did we vote for?
Right. What are the actual consequences?
Consequence. Oh, shit. The prime minister stepped down, right?
Yeah, Cameron. Yes, I believe so.
I mean, that's like, Obama's like, I'm out, guys. Sorry, I fucked up. I'm out of here. Actually, it's kind of admirable that would happen. At any rate, so we're talking Oakland wasn't so safe. It's and marginally improving over time over these past couple of decades. Yeah. Were you still doing bar work or bartending and stuff when you moved there 20 years ago?
Yep. I ended up working at a beer place.
Wow. Was it in Oakland or San Fran?
In Oakland.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I wanted to get out of. Well, it was in Berkeley. I was in Berkeley originally, and then I moved to Oakland and started working in Oakland because I got sick of that depressing, just street punk thing that I kept saying, dirty, so puking, passed out kids. And I was like, to me, that's just like such a waste of potential in life. And, I was partying and having a good time as a young man, but not quite like that. And
it's interesting that where did you get this sense of humanity about you now? Because a lot of people, they have this coldness or they just don't, they ignore it, right?
And compartmentalize things like that and just kind of move on and look the other way.
Like, well, that's the way it is. But it actually like sincerely touched you, for lack of a better word. Why do you think that is? It's interesting because I've met a lot of people in these interviews and you're about like the 102nd or whatnot. So there's a lot of great conversations and this is a very humane moment. Like, there's bound to be a reason that you gave a shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of it might stem from my originally why I got into poetry, and I was writing as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I kind of felt a certain, artistic motivation to express myself and observe the world around me and respond to it and express the feelings that it created in me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There might be something to that effect.
No, but that's for you,
I've grown so far away from that since then. You know, it may still be there, but it certainly is covered with layers of work and responsibility and goals,
being tactical and like just making sure you're getting this stuff done. But it's a beautiful concept though that we do as artists. Whether it's music or film or poetry, especially, which is becoming an increasingly lost art because everybody's a poet apparently, and
Absolutely.
And they didn't even know it. No, but that's a very honest thing. Like, you're trying to connect with the world in a very sincere and unfiltered way. Thusly, I imagine you're very empathetic, right?
Yes, that I have noticed about myself very consciously. I definitely have a deep sense of empathy, for sure.
That's a brilliant thing, especially if you're in the hospitality industry, to bring that back, because people like a church, like a party, like a funeral. It's the same kinds of things that brings people into that bar, So, as you, as kind of like probably a deeply intellectual dude, background in writing and in literature, when did making drinks or did the industry ever become a poetic thing for you? Because there's a point, like what you guys are doing at Whitechapel, and I still need to go, of course, but the dedication to something that is not popular, that is nuanced and passionate, and the passion you guys bring into that menu, and having a massive selection of spirits like that. What was that moment for you where it's like, okay, this actually means something? This is not just selling a drink.
That's a good question. That is a great question. It was not that long ago, believe it or not.
Really?
It was, the cocktail revolution had a profound impact on my career path, on my my understanding of what I'm here for. It kind of brought me back on track to remember when I wanted to open that live music venue when I first moved to Berkeley when I was too young to do anything. I got distracted. I just kind of floated along, paying bills, whatever. But when the cocktail revolution started to happen in this country, we started to learn about fresh juices, making fresh syrups, and measuring, jiggering cocktails, learning about these old cocktail books, Jerry Thomas, and it's like this deep history gave what I was doing to pay the bills some kind of meaning that I never really had, and it kind of got me back on track to thinking more entrepreneurial.
Yeah,
and it really inspired me to pursue ultimately what would become opening Whitechapel.
That's incredible. Is it because what you're doing now is a time old tradition? It's history.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're just carrying that culture.
It justified what I was doing from just getting people buzzed and taking their tips to this is actually kind of socially, historically relevant.
Absolutely.
It has some kind of meaning. I mean, whatever you want to attach to it.
It's one of the pillars of society, and that is not, I don't think that is an exaggeration. Like we were talking earlier, food is a pillar,
right?
Music, film are a pillar, and cocktails are a pillar. Now, extension of food perhaps, but going to a public house and going to a cocktail bar, again, the kinds of things you engage with people. You talk about human condition.
Yeah.
Did you like that piece of it, getting to know the people that came in and getting to understand what they're going through?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I started to discover these things that as a country and eventually as the entire globe kind of has caught on to this cocktail thing.
Totally, yeah.
It really has grown. But when I just started to discover it, I also started to discover the other people discovering it. And it was and it still is, such a neat community of people that just kind of see things a different way. And they see an importance in something that I think the vast majority of the population doesn't really see an importance in, but when they're there experiencing it, they feel the importance,
It's so siloed in a way, and it's speakeasy in itself, and most of the styles of bars, they are inherently dark and kind of seedy, right? So so in a way, they're just already kind of outside public view.
Well, that makes them mysterious also.
That's right.
What is that red stuff in that little bottle you're dashing in that drink?
Totally, yeah.
What are you muddling that sugar cube in? What is that mysterious thing you're doing? What are these mysterious cocktail recipes? You're using recipes? You're measuring ingredients? It was just like
this and this.
Yeah.
There's the Coke. There's the Jack.
Right, exactly.
Right. It's bound. You're right, because much like writing where you have characters, you have personalities, you have tempo, you have complexity. Mm-hmm. Cocktails are the characters in the same specific way. Who's the lead cocktail in a Manhattan? Right. Well, should be the whiskey with some supporting personalities.
Yeah.
And so do you find when you're starting and kind of really had this invigoration and are now inspired again, and these entrepreneurial synapses are firing and all that. Mm-hmm. Were you flocking towards more dark spirits, light spirits? Where do you think your taste fell in that?
Well, personally, I lean towards darker spirits when I'm drinking just for pleasure.
Yeah.
Not in a strong way. I don't have a strong preference in that regard, but I kind of lean that way.
Yeah.
I like to sip on a bourbon or scotch neat. It's just kind of fun for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a cocktail in itself, right? You don't have to make anything.
Yeah, it's complex and delicious. I mean, so is gin in the sense that you got all these botanical notes and fun things happening too. But what I noticed at some point along the way, when I first started to discover these complex cocktails, the historical aspect of it all, and seeing how cocktail bars were evolving and developing, I noticed that there were new gins coming on. I was a bar manager, so I was people were coming.
Where were you working at that point?
At that point was Thirsty Bear in San Francisco. It's a brewing company, but also a full bar.
Very cool. What year are we talking? To give you kind of sense of place. Or?
This would have been probably around 2008, 2009.
Okay.
If I'm recalling correctly.
Oh yeah, that's all when it's bubbling up.
Yeah,
lots
of things happening. Absolutely,
for sure.
And I was just discovering the community, discovering other bars that were opening up around that had they were whiskey centric or tequila centric, even pisco centric. And then of course, Smugglers comes along. There's other rum bars as well.
Right.
You know, not necessarily in San Francisco, but in the country
that's
around.
Right, yeah.
But one thing that I noticed as a bar manager, people were coming up to me more and more with new gins.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't exploding at that time, but compared to what was available before that, you had like a half a dozen gins, for the most part, and now you had a dozen, and then you had a dozen and a half.
That's right.
And I was thinking, wow, well, this is kind of happening fast.
Yeah.
And I don't see any bar that is really focusing on gin like the whiskey bars focus on whiskeys, like
was Rickhouse around then yet?
Probably no, not quite then.
But
Bourbon and Branch was
okay.
Beretta was, what else? Nopa was. So there's some great bar programs around. Absinthe at the time, I think, was kind of paving the way. But there, and then there was I guess there was definitely, I think, Tres Agaves opened up right around then too, and they were a big tequila bar.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing gin. Nobody was doing full-on hardcore gin cocktails. So that's where the seed kind of planted itself, you know.
And did you say like, okay, so I'm going to reimagine this idea I had some time ago about a venue and a bar. Did you still want it to be a venue, or you're like, I want a curated gin experience?
No, it was all about the cocktail. All about the cocktails at that point.
Interesting.
Not so much the venue like for live music anymore.
Right. Because it is you got a stage, right? The bar is a stage if you think about it, you know?
Yep. And I had become enamored with the cold draft, the big ice cube, and the multiple types of bitters. And that's another thing that started to come along more and more. You started to see not only the classic Angostura and Peychaud's were available, but then Regan's came out with his orange bitters, and Peychaud's Angostura came out with their orange bitters, and then Fee Brothers started coming out, and
peach, chocolate, mint,
all kinds of crazy
opening stuff up,
and so that kind of thing to me was like, that was my new focus. That was it. I wanted to go in that direction, and I wanted to do gin, and I wanted to do it fast. I wanted to do it right away. It took me 7 years to get.
Did you go back? What was the conversation this time when you went back to the bank, or did you say, "Well, I want to work with some people"?
I learned my lesson. I didn't go back to the bank.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. Actually, I talked to a banker that someone recommended I talk to, and even then, with a business plan, they were like, "No, restaurant, bar, too risky. We're not interested."
Wow.
And plus, I had no track record.
You hadn't run anything by yourself, right?
Absolutely.
It's so hard.
So hard.
Getting the wheels off the ground, you know?
Yeah.
So what was the next step then? How did you continue the momentum? Did you enlist the help of other people, or?
That's exactly what I did. I actually started to talk to more and more people about it.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody said to me just a few months ago, in fact, I think it's one of my partners right now, Martin Kate. He's like, he was talking to like everyone in town about it. And I was the one guy who kind of decided, all right, I like it. Let's see if we can make it happen. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. I literally talked to dozens of bar owners who I'd gotten to know.
Yeah.
Who I think, we had a good relationship, we still do, respected me, I respected them. but they weren't quite ready for it. Either they didn't see what I saw, or they just weren't in a place in their entrepreneurial existence to want to take that on.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's a very innovative thing to do. The only other place I knew in the States that had any kind of dedication to gin, that was Gin Palace. That was in New York, and that closed, right?
It did close, yeah.
So, obviously the torch has to be handed off. And so we're probably talking 2009, 2010, you're getting people and you guys are thinking about what this is going to look like. How many partners did you end up taking on?
Ended up with 2 others, so there are 3 of us, and they're both former bosses of mine.
Oh, cool.
Which, it's cool. It's, to me, that means a lot to me personally, not even professionally, but just personally, that they think enough of me as a person, as a manager, as a bartender, well, former now, but they thought enough of me to want to actually invest their futures to a degree in this idea of mine and take me on as a partner.
Well, they know talent. Have you noticed that's one of the key things that people have to have?
Love that you said that.
Yeah.
But,
it is, right?
Yeah.
Because people that have done it know who they can tell who the right people are to help do it too, right?
Yeah.
So it's like entrepreneurs can smell other entrepreneurs, and then we can smell fake ones. It's like, oh, you launched a website. Cool. What are you really doing?
Yeah.
But when you talk about a brick and mortar retailer, ultimately, that's tough. Distillery is tough. You're doing this thing. You're making this thing.
Yeah.
You have staff. You've got money. You've got taxes. Were you ready for all of that stuff?
You got employees. Oh, man.
Personalities. You got to make sure you can keep a constant culture.
Yeah.
And like that comes from you and from the other owners. It's a lot to think about. And did it ever overwhelm you getting into it?
Well, it certainly could have. The feelings. This has been a crazy ride. Still is.
Yeah.
But I am doing everything I can, I feel, to prepare myself and to stay on top of it and try to get ahead of it. I'm reading books about management techniques and theory.
Yeah.
I'm reading books about, I'm doing a lot of listening to a lot of podcasts about startups and leadership.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important. You mentioned the culture.
Yeah.
So important to create a positive culture for your staff. I think as a bar owner now, I think the most important thing I or any owner of any business can do is to really focus on their staff and to try to make their staff experience meaningful and gainful, so that they have something. No employee is going to stay with you forever, and when they leave, whether it's next week or next year or 10 years from now, I want them to take something, some skill, something they learned.
You want to have enriched them in some way, right?
That's right.
Well, that's a good thing. A lot of people don't necessarily think about it that way. They think about it so transactionally,
right?
That they forget that one of the main transactions or one of the main products is the people.
Absolutely.
And this we can talk about manager styles, but like, let's put it this way: if you're a dick, they're going to be a dick. It's just like your parents.
Yep.
Parents are nice and they're not fighting. Well, you'll probably be nice and not fighting. There are exceptions, of course, and you always have people that try to disrupt that culture because misery loves company, as we know, right?
Oh yeah.
But
it's a constant struggle.
Totally, I imagine. And how many staff do you guys have now?
We have, including all back of house and everything, I say right around 30.
Oh wow! Yeah, it's a massive team. Then
it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Compared, big enough.
Yeah, right. So, how many years then in development did it take before you guys finally were able to locate the actual place where you wanted to do this?
Yeah, that was a fun process, boy. That was
fun, right? In air quotes.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We looked at so many different places. Martin was the first person who had committed to being my partner, and then my then current boss, John Park, was interested in not only the idea, the concept I had shared with him, but he had knowledge and access to a particular location.
Oh, great!
Because a friend of his had owned and operated a nightclub at this location.
So the license is there, right?
The license was there.
Perfect.
The location was great. The size was great. Then the rent was amazing. We didn't quite get the amazing rent, but we got decent,
Yeah.
But he said, "Hey guys, I can get our foot in the door and probably get us this space, but I want partnership. I want in."
Yeah.
Martin was really reluctant for a good reason. He had been burned with partnership experiences in the past.
So is Martin? I'm not too familiar with Martin. Does he own other spots?
Oh yeah, Martin Kate, the owner of Smuggler's Cove. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you ever work there?
I did. I was the opening manager there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you've
former bosses.
Yeah, that's partners. Incredible. So you've been in the very innovative spots in town. Like you've managed to have learned something. Because I mean, having a rum bar, like this,
well, yeah,
that's kind of cool. You know,
working there was an amazing experience. Working with Martin side by side. He's kind of a visionary. Well, celebrity doesn't do it justice, but he's an iconic figure in the cocktail and spirit world.
I've heard of him, and I would love to talk to him someday. I've never met him, but he seems like a cool guy.
Colorful. He's also a trained thespian. He was an actor in college at Santa Cruz, I believe, and I think even high school. So he's really colorful. He's very expressive,
commanding.
Yeah, very commanding. Yeah,
he
can manage to enthrall a crowd of people. Whether he's speaking about rum, tiki culture, or just shooting the shit, whatever.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's
it's great company to be around, great people to be in a partnership with.
Totally. I hope I get to glean some of that off him. I don't think I'll ever be a good public speaker, but he's inspiring in that regard.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
and so he got burned a couple times. He's kind of reticent to let the third partner in.
Absolutely.
But I guess they dropped the...
Well, this is where I came in.
Okay.
I had to be essentially a diplomat, politician,
arbitrator?
If you will. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Were they friends?
No, they hadn't met each other. They only met each other in this context, in this process through me. Mm-hmm. And it was really hairy here and there for a while because at one point Martin was like, "No, I can't do it. Not going to do it." Even after meeting him, even though John is a really great guy, very intelligent, but Martin he's very passionate about what he does for a living.
Yeah,
he's also aware of his brand. Who he is in the.
Got a lot to protect.
Absolutely. He just came out with a book, and that
kind
of adds another huge layer to the brand of Martin Kate.
And his persona. I mean, Absolutely. It's a massive brand. Yeah,
absolutely. And so he wasn't sure if John had the passion behind wanting to be a partner in this particular concept, or if he just saw ching,
right,
dollar signs in his eyes.
That's a very good question.
Yep,
that is the question you want to have when is it good equity or bad equity?
Right.
And so, what do you think was the tipping point where Martin's like, "Oh, fine, okay."
Multiple meetings, multiple discussions with me, trying to make it happen, piece this puzzle together, even though the puzzle didn't want to get together initially, or at times, but with enough meetings and enough discussion and enough arbitration, as you say,
which makes it seem real contentious, but I like it that you're like in the middle, kind of like holding them away from each other.
Well, it wasn't ever actually contentious in the sense
I'm
that
sure,
but it was difficult. It was definitely difficult to try to convince this partnership to happen.
Yeah.
Eventually it did. John very admirably said, he in one meeting he just said, "Listen, I know how you feel about me. I know what you're thinking. You've stated it several times. I'm going to assure you." And he went on to assure not only Martin but both of us that he's in it. He's really on board. His heart's in it.
Yeah.
His mind is such that he's a very clear businessman, focused. Mm-hmm. But he's not cold. He's not calculating. Well, if he is, he's in a good way.
But in a nice way, a natural way, not a contrived way.
Totally. And he's genuine.
Yeah.
And he's sincere about his intentions.
That's great.
And because he is sincere, and he's proven to be, he did convince us. I mean, we saw it.
Yeah.
We were like,
all right, we'll put a ring on it.
Yeah.
We'll trust you. Trust you. How long did the deliberations take? Months, years?
Everything felt like it took so long.
Yeah.
But certainly months. Yeah. Certainly months. And then to find the right location, to make this location work, Martin and I had been looking for a location before this other opportunity came along.
Yeah.
But even once this location fell into our lap, it was not easy.
Yeah.
There was starting and stopping and going back to square one after a couple of months of negotiating with a sublessee,
right?
Or the lessee. We were the sublessee. It got very complicated. It went back and forth, and
were you getting downtrodden yet? Were you like, dude, I don't know if I can keep dealing with this shit?
Well, yes, yes, to a degree. I mean, obviously we persevered.
Sure, of course.
But yeah, it was getting to be
arduous process.
It was rough.
How long did it take in total, you think? A couple years?
A couple years altogether, yeah, absolutely. And then the build out and transferring the liquor license. I mean, every little step.
Dude, it takes forever.
It's crazy
when you're dealing with booze, especially. Yeah. So when did you officially have your soft opening or your grand opening there?
Soft opening in October, just October of last year. October 26th is when we opened our doors to the public.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's great. So it's like about 7 months in? Is that, am I doing the math right there? Yeah, 7 or 8 months in. That's pretty.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. For now, exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so did you feel validated? Because if you think about it, this nugget of a concept to devote a space to gin, like you're kind of, it's your turn, Alex. You're on stage, man. Go ahead and perform your song, you know?
Yep. I don't feel validated at all. No, I don't. I mean, some people come up to me and they say, congratulations on the success. I'm like, what success?
Yeah.
There's no success.
Well, it's not been open long enough.
It's a constant struggle every day. And we're not anywhere near where we need to be in terms of paying people off. Sure. You know, we're chipping away at it. But until I'm debt free and the investors are paid back.
Yeah.
I can't even accept congratulations or success. The word success.
No, it's good. That's a great mindset. You're not in the clear. No one's ever in the clear. That the boulder is still rushing behind you. It's just if you can divert the path or not, you know, and get around it.
Right.
But at least you feel like those entrepreneurial muscles are flexing now, like that you finally have made the next chapter has started, so to speak.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a milestone. Absolutely. Opening the doors, having the space built out, having a staff on board, which is at the beginning, the staff was, as it has been in all my opening experiences, rough, a lot of transition initially. We like to think we have very high standards. We like to think we hold people to them, but in always keeping in mind the context of that company culture, that we want to make sure the staff feel supported and appreciated, but at the same time, we have to give them the feedback that they need to uphold these standards that we all agreed on, you know, from day one.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have free reign to build that culture the way that you want to? Because I know you've got two other partners that probably have different talents and things, but like, are they deferring to you to say like, you build this culture with this staff?
They are absolutely. In the sense that I was always positioned as the one that was going to be there present all the time, the like main managing partner. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Exactly. They each have their own other bars to focus on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And books and, you know, other ventures and
soon book tours, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Has to be, you know.
Literally not soon, right in the middle. He just started it actually. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Is he coming to Austin?
I imagine he would. I don't really know what the tiki scene is like in Austin, to be honest with you.
It's interesting. It's not massive, but it's not bad. We have Tiki Week every year, which is killer, and it's a big dedication to tiki. I mean, think about that. Him coming in for Tiki Week, amazing thing. The guy that kind of like put it on the map in the States. And of course, like Trader Vic's and stuff. But you know, everybody knows Smugglers Cove. It's just like
Martin kind of was. I mean, he's certainly a key figure in the resurgence of the tiki culture.
Definitely.
He took the cocktail renaissance values and applied them to tiki bars, which up until, I mean, Smugglers or Forbidden Island in Alameda, which was where he was before that, they were using Sprite and sweet and sour.
Right, synthesized stuff.
Yeah, and that was kind of universal at tiki places. Sugary, sweet drinks that made you, gave you a headache.
Yeah.
But he took the modern approach to it, or the modern original old-fashioned approach to it.
It's amazing.
And all fresh juices, all fresh syrups made
totally
by
different
hand.
Experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of stepping away from looking at what you've achieved with the bar and what you saw in gin, which is a massive thing. And the market in Texas alone, just to give you kind of some insight. So when we started, we had two. We had our Navy Strength and we had a regular gin, and we did this in 2013. There was 4 gins then. In Texas.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, we're sitting pretty, right?
Yeah.
Now, in 2016, there are 42.
In Texas alone.
That's right.
Amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, the gin category has exploded.
Right.
It's outrageous.
Which brings a lot of risks, because there is a bubble in craft, and there is absolutely a bubble in gin. There are a lot of good gins. There's no doubt. And you guys carry so many fabulous styles of gin, so many different SKUs of it, that lovely stuff,
Yeah.
But at some point, like, enough's got to be enough, right? You guys see that happening? Like, where it's like, I don't know that we need another gin.
Oh no, for us, we're taking a lot of cues from Martin's success at Smuggler's Cove.
Yeah.
He has built his rum collection basically as big as he possibly could. He never really says no to a rum. Well, let me not say never. Flavored rums he won't carry, for example.
Sure.
Uber cheap, terribly produced rums.
Yeah, right.
He won't carry unless there's some historical or really sort of collectible quality to it. Maybe, I guess, if there is such a thing out there.
Yeah.
So we want to take that same approach. We don't want to carry the cheapest of the cheap gins, but if it's a craft gin or if it's even a mass-produced high quality gin, we want to carry it. So
the doors are open. It's a really nice
for us. I think the risk might be more for a gin producer.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe who needs to find shelf space, who needs to get some kind of market percentage.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and you can't. So here's the interesting thing. I touched on this a couple of weeks ago when I was teaching a class, but everybody, when we started out, when they talk about distilling, like, get the biggest still you can buy. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking around. It's like 60 grand, 30 grand, 60 grand. I'm like, that's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
The ROI on that's quite a lot of money, right? And so we didn't do that. We did it small, like making demos in the garage. We bought 3 mics and we made the most out of it. And so we're at capacity. But most of these guys, they just overshoot it and they expect it just automatically that the gin category, now the category, of course, is exploding, like you said. And you guys have this amazing place to portray and exhibit all this great work.
Yeah, but no one gin really gets too much attention.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Just like in the market in general, it's crowded. Our back shelves are crowded. There's a lot of gins back there. I mean, hopefully it's a good place for maybe a brand to come and have an event where their brand is the featured gin at that event.
Yeah.
And what that does is maybe the local consumers learn about it. They associate it with a personality, whether it's a brand personality or maker, distiller personality, or whatever it might be, or even a brand rep personality. And then they get a chance to learn about it and taste it, of course. And
I love it. You are the least jaded person I've talked to. I love it. I mean, it's great because you're like, no, this is going to work. This is our model. We're going to bring in a lot of gins. There's always opportunity to connect with people. There's always opportunity to connect people with brands, or as you said, distillers, faces, personalities on it. It's really lovely that you guys are doing that. So,
thank you.
I think it's. I mean, who else is doing that? Who has a gin bar? It's not a big. And it was different in UK or whatever, in London, right? But not in the States. Like, that's not a thing.
Sure. Well, the gin bars or the gin-centric bar programs that came before tended to, what we saw was they had a cocktail list. Say they had, let's just say they had a dozen cocktails, maybe 20.
Yeah.
Out of that 20, 12 of them were gin cocktails, gin heavy.
Sure.
But then they had the rum cocktails, the tequila cocktails, the vodka cocktails, and the whiskey cocktails. Yeah. Our cocktail list of over 100 cocktails is literally every single one is gin or Geneva.
Gin, very true. Yeah. What did you have a particular style that you like over others?
Style of gin?
Yeah, style of gin.
Do I have no, not really. I do, much like I appreciate different spirits.
Sure.
Even if I tend to lean, like at the end of the day, and I want maybe a sip of a bourbon just to kind of like de-stress.
Right.
But I like all spirits. I really do. I appreciate them if they're well made or interesting and intriguing.
Yeah.
I like them. And gin's certainly no exception to that.
That's very intriguing.
Yeah.
A lot of colors, a lot of notes to it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of which, so we've been sipping some mezcal. This is the third new Palenque from Mezcal Vago. Judo's an amazing person. Francisco, wonderful people, great products. And I'll never say his name right. I got to get it clear before I say it on the microphone. But this is the new Madre Quiche from that third Palenque. Single distillation.
Yeah.
You talk about interesting. What do you think about that? Mezcal we're drinking. It's about 50+% ABV. I'm
enjoying it.
Yeah, it's good, right?
I like it. A little sort of vanilla marshmallow quality to it.
Yeah.
Definitely the word you used, grassy.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I hate tasting notes and I'm becoming very jaded on it, but I'll tell you what, it definitely smells like nature. It smells like forest floor. That was the best thing I'd ever heard someone say, like, oh, it reminds me of forest floor. Well, nobody tastes forest floor but I know what it smells like, and I know what it could taste like.
That's it.
It's so perfect, And it's always exciting. You talk about interesting mezcal. This is the next boom. So gin is seeing it, and it's in play right now. It's in season, and I don't know how things will turn out. I'm not sure. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of cash grabs, a lot of honest producers, a lot of great producers, not so great, But mezcal's kind of that next piece. So,
well, mezcal now has an inherent limitation factor to it with the wild agaves.
That's right.
Who knows how long that resource is going to be available to keep producing the kind of volume that the growth of the mezcal category is experiencing right now. Gin, on the other hand, I don't think that there's an inherent limit in the resources
there's no
it takes to make it.
With it. Yeah,
grains and botanicals will theoretically always be around.
Yeah,
but I do think that as the gin category gets more and more crowded, there are, evolutionarily speaking, some will fall off by the wayside. They're not going to be managed properly. Yeah. Some will be mismanaged. Some will be just won't be make the cut for one reason or another.
You're totally right. Well, it just has to be that way.
Yeah.
And we're all riding high right now, and it's all a great state of art. And if you look at Portland, that was the first real big local locavore kind of craft distilling situation.
Yeah.
A lot of brands closed down, man, and Texas will be no different. Although we have a slightly larger market here, like 4 markets that could be one San Francisco kind of thing,
Right.
But so that's helps, but it's interesting to see what will happen. And I don't know where craft is going, and it's always interesting to kind of speculate.
I think those that were early to market, such as you guys, have a real advantage. You're early to market, and you produce quality product,
thank you.
And hopefully you continue to market it and manage it, so that the growth is sustained, and it's appreciated, and people learn about it.
Yeah,
they learn why they may want it versus the newest guy to market.
The newness factor is always a piece,
right? People are always intrigued by the new thing, but just because they try it out doesn't mean they're going to stick with it.
No, for sure. I mean, it's fast, fair weather friends, right?
Right.
If once it's not popular, like, hey, well, I'm going to move on to something else,
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that this project, Whitechapel, is going to be very successful, even when you might not feel mentally that you're out of the weeds yet, right?
Yeah.
But do you see the next step for you? Do you see what you'd like to do next? Have you thought about that yet?
Yes, I kick myself for even thinking along these lines, but yes, I have ideas already that I want to. I'm already working on business plans. Yes,
yeah, amazing. Well, that's once that fire starts burning, it never goes out.
Right.
And it's great that it came to fruition, and you found people that are good personalities that believe in you, that know that you're talented. And I mean, if you're going to be reading on how to be a better manager, you're already going to be a better manager. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. I like what
the self-initiated, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I think there's even in some of the books I've read, they even say something along those lines. If you're reading this book, you're at least showing that you care enough.
That's right.
To grow into a what they term a great leader.
Yeah.
I don't expect to ever be a great anything, but I would like to be a good one.
Yeah.
I don't like to consider myself doing anything in life if I'm not going to try to do it well at least.
No, that's a good point. I'm glad you're not committed to mediocrity as so many people are,
Committed to mediocrity. I love it.
Totally committed to it. Do you ever see yourself going back to writing, assuming that you don't currently?
I can't imagine having the time right now, but yes, the desire to do that at some point would be nice. I maybe if I can get the next project off the ground.
Yeah. Then you'll feel like you're a little in the clear?
Well, I think I'll be busier.
Yeah.
But I think at some point, maybe let's just say 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the dust has settled a little bit. Yeah, I'd like to maybe, but it would probably be an experience of like more autobiographical.
Yeah. And the great American novel about you.
Sure.
It's more than 150 pages, right? Just tell me that your life has twists and turns that exceed 150 pages. They have to.
Short story, maybe one main character.
Yeah.
And hopefully a happy ending. I don't know.
Any swords? People are into swords now.
Well, we have a sword at Whitechapel, so yes, a sword could be involved.
Well,
yes.
Perfect.
Yes, we had one of our servers had it custom made, surprised me.
Okay.
Gave it to me and said, "This is for Whitechapel." He had it inscribed. He had it made and then inscribed.
Oh, amazing.
A little poem he wrote on it. It was great. Yeah.
That's incredible. Does it hang above the bar like
does,
the sword of Damocles?
It is. Yes. Well, hopefully not like the sword of Damocles.
I know, okay.
But it does hang above the bar. Yes.
Well, it's amazing, man. Well, I'm so glad that Jessica happened to be in your bar the other night, and she knew me, and then she mentioned you. Wonderful personality, man. It's been really great chatting, and I hope that you enjoy.
You too.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your trip. And Austin, it's a good one. The weather's not too hot, a little bit overcast. What are you going to see next?
I'm loving it so far, just absolutely loving it. Well, right now, one of the things I want to do is try to relax.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it easy. Still want to visit bars and restaurants and have fun, exploring the city a little bit.
Yeah.
But just at a nice leisurely pace. We rented some bicycles for the last couple of days.
Amazing.
Rode around Austin, downtown Austin on our bikes. That was fun.
So great, right?
Yeah. Fun time.
Very, very good stuff. Well, thanks so much for stopping by, man. And I hope I get to visit you in San Francisco, and I hope that I get to meet more of the people that have really put so much faith in you. They've got to be good people, man. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
Well, there you have it. What do you guys think of Alex? Alex is insightful. He's kind. He's intelligent. He cares about his fellow man. And I think he's really braved a lot of the changes socioeconomically in Oakland, and it's amazing to hear his perspective on that. And I hope that in the future he commits more of these thoughts and more of these emotions to Paige as he did growing up. In addition to all of this writing, establishing a dedicated gin bar in San Francisco called Whitechapel. His view on gin is lovely. It's open, it's refreshing, and it's friendly. I hope that we can all go and enjoy a nice martini, a nice gimlet, and just sample the wide array of beautiful gins they have there in San Francisco. Thank you, Alex, for chatting with me, and thank you, Jessica Sanders, for making that introduction. That's what this hospitality industry is all about, making amazing connections with people and getting to really spend some quality time with them. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V. Thank you so much for making the 100th episode happen last week. We're on to the next frontier of 200 episodes, and I have to tell you, there are some great conversations that will be released this year. So whether or not you're thinking about how you felt about the new Ghostbusters movie, or even think if they're going to make a sequel, and what happened to Rick Moranis, please keep thinking.